Hi, guys. My name is Amanda K. Thornton, and you're listening to the One Up podcast. You can also see the live video on YouTube. To get to that, you can go to Amena, that's AMENA, .media in your browser to see the video. This is the series Message of Hope, where real people come into the studio by the Zoom, and they share their story of struggle to success with us. Today I have in Jenny Hardman and Hardman, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, it
Okay.
is. Yeah.
Jenny Hardman, and she is coming in from the UK today, and she's gonna be talking about overcoming a lifetime of trauma, both in physical and mental, aspects of that, and how she struggled and what it has brought into her life, not only in business, but in relationships as well. So I'm so excited to have her on, and I'm so grateful that she's here. And she's just glowing this morning. She looks ready and awake. And Jenny, what time is it there?
It's just past 1 p.m. here on a Sunday, so it's about time just for waking up.
Yeah. I get that tired feeling usually about that time where I'm just like, I'm done. And then I get re-energized. Do you get that too in the evening where you're just like,
Yes. Yes. No, I have a nap most days around
yeah,
3 p.m. and
I
everybody
do
laughs at
too.
me.
I
And I'm
do
like,
too. No,
no,
I do the same thing.
I need my nap and then I can continue through the evening.
I know. I'm like, I'm so tired. I just need to lay down for a little bit. And my kids think it's so funny. They're like, wait, what'd you do? I'm like, well, I meditated, I did some work, but I've been up for 5 hours already.
Yeah, I adulted today. That needs a nap.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm glad you're on, and and you're sharing
Thank
your
you for having me.
story, and hopefully a lot of people here can, get past whatever struggle they're having right now, and gain hope. That's the whole point of the Message of Hope series, is to share real stories straight from the people, and give hope back to the people that are still struggling out there. There's a lot. I still see a lot on social media. In fact, I just posted today because apparently somebody passed away, somebody committed suicide, just because they were overcome with grief. And, I guess a friend of theirs posted it. And, so I'm just like, yeah, we need more people to tell their story and just say, we've been there. It's okay. It's hard. It's very hard, but you can do it. And
Yeah, you
so
can.
I'm grateful. I'm grateful that, you and a bunch of others have, stepped up and said, I'm ready to tell my story. So where do you want to start off on your journey today?
I think we'll start at the beginning if that's okay, because I think
That's
then everybody
fine.
gets the full context of who I am and why the way I am and how you can get through those barriers if you want to. And I think that's a huge message that people need to take across. It's if they want to, and it's only when they're ready that they can actually do that. Nobody can force you to make that transition or change to, I don't know, a better life, to feel better about yourself.
Yeah, no, that's why each one of these sessions, if you guys have heard of any of them so far on the One Up podcast, you can get the links to that too by going to anchor.fm/one up. And we're broadcasting on 8 different systems now, so you can find your favorite, system to listen to it as well. But if you have noticed that each one of these talks lasts about an hour, and that's exactly why, just to make sure that you understand the struggle that each one of our guests have been through, and then how they overcame that. So yeah, we have time. Where would you like to
Fantastic.
start?
I'll start obviously when I was a child. I grew up in quite an interesting situation, let's say. I grew up in quite horrific domestic abuse. And growing up, I didn't feel loved. I didn't feel safe. I didn't feel like I fit in anywhere. Because when I was voicing my concerns of what I was struggling with, I mean, this started when I was 2 years old. So, I mean, I was a tiny person. When I was old enough to start voicing my concerns about what I was feeling, they were dismissed. in terms of it's not happening to you, don't worry about it, I can handle it. So it was with my mum, and because she was the person that was going through the physical abuse, my needs were kind of pushed aside because I wasn't going through any physical abuse. Now I think over time, over years, we've realized that the physical abuse heals, bruises heal, bones heal. Your mental effects from trauma don't heal quite as quickly. And this is something that I am now focusing my life on, to educating people, because it's a massive, massive thing that no one seems to understand. So when I was younger, so I went through this trauma, and it wasn't just once or twice, it was quite frequent. This was every day, not everyday life, but it was quite frequent. It was normal. So I grew up, thinking that, calling your wife names, putting her down, degrading her, shouting, screaming, smashing things up, smashing windows, punching, kicking, there were baseball bats included. There was a horrific amount of things. I grew up thinking that this was normal.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, in the back of my mind, I knew it wasn't normal. That wasn't, it didn't feel right. So
And did
clearly
you
that
see
couldn't be
like
normal.
did you see like other like did you go over other people's houses and it was different and then you were just like, well, wait, they're not acting the same way, is this a normal, or what I'm living in is normal? And then question that. And then I want to ask you too, so are you the only child in your family?
I was the
Or
only child until I was 9, and this
okay.
is where things got progressively worse.
Okay.
I'll start again, put my
That's
teeth in.
okay.
When my next sibling arrived, things dramatically increased. The frequency of things increased, the intensity of things increased. And they only got worse when my second sibling was born, because she wasn't a planned pregnancy, so it was just horrendous. And it all come to a head really when I was 15 years old. There was one situation that completely changed my entire life. I'd seen blood, I'd seen broken bones, I'd seen all that, I'd heard the screaming, I'd got used to hiding under my covers and just ignoring it. And, as a family, we became, and what most people are not aware of, we became very good at pretending. When we were out and about, we were very good at pretending we were the perfect family to fit in.
And that's all, yeah, it's a defense mechanism. You don't know how to approach, other people when you're going through that. And I can relate to that too. I had been abused when I was a child, but it's a hard subject, especially when even in school, because they try to be like, okay, well, are you physically abused? Because I remember there's counselors in school and they're like, are you being physically abused? And I'd be like, well, no. And then I'm like, well, how do I talk about, being sexually abused? Or how do I talk about, being mentally abused and how I feel in that aspect? Because it's not talked about and it's not addressed. Even in the court system, it's not addressed. It's not, they're like, well, it's what do they call it? It's free speech here in the States. Well, that's free speech. It's okay. It's okay because they're expressing their opinion. It's okay that they're cussing. It's okay that they're screaming. And I'm like, no, it can't, because it wears people out and it makes them feel like not a person. And
Yeah,
yeah, so I
I
can
think it
totally
does wear
relate
you
with the
down.
mental.
I think if you go through the court systems, they can't measure it. Whereas if you've been punched so many times, they can measure that. They have something to measure it on. How
Yeah.
do you measure emotional abuse? How do you measure verbal abuse? Because it's all subjected to us as the person that's receiving it and how we deal with it. So, somebody could call you a horrific name and you could be utterly mortified. Someone could call me a horrific name and I could go, thanks. So
Mhm.
it all depends on us. So how do courts measure that? There's not a way to do it. I mean, I'll go through later the situation we've been through recently, but what I wanted to talk about is how it's actually impacted my entire life. When I was younger, luckily for me, I had a safe space. I didn't realize at the time, but I had a next door neighbor that basically took me under their wing. It was an old couple, and they used to make me a sandwich every evening and a little glass of Coca-Cola
Oh,
and,
I love
talk
that.
about everything. And I never realized growing up that I had this safe space. And no matter what I did when I was an absolute terror as a teenager, I would always go there and they would talk through why would you do that and how did that make you feel? So they made me aware of my emotions.
Oh, wow.
Whereas
Yeah.
at home, I never had that. It was just to stop being ridiculous. And I was always put down. And growing up, I was took to every doctor and psychologist you could find because there was something wrong with me. And at the time, I was thinking, is there something wrong with me? What's wrong with me? I thought I was normal. Because you do, as a young person, you think, well, everybody thinks like I think.
Yeah.
And it was only 4 years ago. So now this was when I was 33. I was diagnosed with ADHD. Because back in the day, 30 years ago, this didn't exist. And I was asked by these professionals, why was I doing this to my mum?
Wow.
So this was
Wow. Wait.
compounded
Yeah.
as a child, that there was something wrong with me, with the way I was behaving. Now, as an adult looking back, I realized there was nothing wrong with me. I was reacting due to the situation that I was in. But obviously, domestic abuse in marital relationships were not class criminalized until 1996 in the UK. So it's not that long ago that, these things were actually classed as criminal.
Wow.
What actually happened within my life is I got out of that situation as quickly as possible, because I say there was a situation when I was 15 that changed my entire life. I was woke up very, very early mornings once with my mum just shouting and screaming, Jen, come and help me, come and help me. And I'm not going to traumatize people with, what the situation was,
Yeah.
but it changed my entire life.
That's okay.
And it was a shift, let's say, in my mind in terms of who I was and what life was about. And I turned into a very angry individual. And I knew I needed to get out of that situation as quickly as possible. So at 17 years old, I'd been working nights, I'd been working every possible hour that I could to find enough money. And I got my own apartment. And I'd been seeing a guy for about 2 years. He was my best friend. He wouldn't leave me alone. I couldn't get another boyfriend because he was already around. So I was like, oh, I might as well just go out with you then, and you can be my boyfriend. And this developed, and he ended up being the father to 4 of my children, and we were together 13 years, and we are the bestest of friends now. I just want to put that in there before I go into what happened. But at that time I didn't realize he was actually very abusive. He wasn't physically abusive.
30 years, right? 30. Yeah. And it took you many years to grow to really see what you're getting ready to tell us, basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I think I know
where
this
is a long time.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Beautiful. So I've got a 7-year-old showing me her lipstick.
Oh yeah, I've got 3 here. So yeah.
This is something that I would say to anybody who's going through anything like this. This isn't something that I was aware of when I was younger. This wasn't something I was aware of in my first marriage. This wasn't something I was aware of in my second marriage. It has literally been the last 3 years of my life. So, 34, when I realized, damn, something needs to change. So through my first marriage, he was quite verbally abusive, but it started with little things. Are you really going out looking like that? Do you not think you should put some nicer clothes on if you're going to the supermarket? And I'm thinking, going to the supermarket, what does it matter? Or, you've got a spot. We won't go out to that dinner tonight because you don't look great. And tiny little things like that just compound over time and completely destroy your self-worth. And it got to the point where he was then becoming physically abusive and also sexually abusive. Now, at the time, I reached out to a family member and said, look, I'm a bit confused. I understand about physical abuse. Now, I've took my vows as a married woman, and I understand the concepts of an intimate relationship, but I don't want to do this, and it's still happening. What do I do? It's normal, just deal with it. It happens in every marriage. Oh. So I carried on. Mm-hmm. And there became another time where it was, let's just say it was extremely intense. And I was very shook up by this moment. This was a man that I devoted my life to. Had
but
4
at
of his
this point,
children.
You didn't feel safe, like in an intimate setting either. Yeah.
No. And I didn't know what to do. And I went to another family member and said, what do I do here? And I was told I deserved it.
Wow.
Okay.
And these are people that you look up to and rely on. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because the thing is, in abusive relationships, it's always the person or the victim that's portrayed as the bad person. So I'm quite mouthy, I'm very loud, I'm very abrupt, and I'm very upfront. If I've got something to say, it will just fall out of my mouth before my brain engages. And everybody knows me for that, and I'm comfortable with that. That's okay.
You found your voice.
That's powerful. I found it now. Yeah, I found it now.
That's powerful. Yeah.
And I think with people that are going through this, indoors, you're a very different person to you are outdoors, because when you're outdoors with around other people, you feel safer because you're around other people. So you get more confidence to say what you need to say. So when we were out and about with family and he did something that I wasn't quite comfortable with, I would say it, I'd call him out on it. But then when we'd get home, oh my days, it just wasn't worth it. So in the end, I became very subdued, very quiet. I wasn't going out. I wasn't engaging with friends. I became very, isolated, because I was a mum to 4 for a start. And I had this wonderful husband that everybody perceived to be, had a fantastic job, nice car, loads of money,
Did
nice
he
suit.
did he like portray that when he was out with you too, like, oh, this is my wife and she's wonderful, and
No,
and everybody,
no.
well, not even where, I guess, when you talk about it now to people, how what you were going through, because now you're very open, you're very vocal about it, I can tell, but when you go back and just like, this is what happened, this is actually what was happening, I just wasn't comfortable talking about it then, where they're like, wow, I didn't realize you were going through that, because every time that he, like, what I saw that he portrayed you as like, you guys were doing well, everything was doing good, and you were just like, no, that's not the real story, this is the real story.
Yeah, he always portrayed that we were doing well, but I was always portrayed as the instigator. I was always portrayed as the one that was causing a problem. So I would be the one that caused the arguments. I was the one that caused all the issues. And I was sat here in the background going, I'm working full time. I've got 4 children. I'm keeping the house. I'm doing everything that I possibly can. What am I doing wrong? And it just got to a point where I realized that, this is wrong. I'm not happy. I went through a situation where, I contemplated committing suicide quite a few times. And I realized that, I need to be a better parent for my children. This is not what they need. And I had to shift the focus off myself onto them. Because if it was about me, I wouldn't be here. It wouldn't be any difference to me. I was struggling, and I didn't know what I was struggling with.
Yeah.
Because I was taught by him and others that I had the perfect relationship. He was amazing. What was my problem?
And so you're
I
like, well,
was the
this is
problem.
just getting to me so much, it's so stressful. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. And I'm trying to do everything right. Cause it sounds like you were trying to, like, be the best wife, be the best supporter, be the best, mom to your children. And you're just like, I'm doing everything right. But everybody's still like, I mean, the person that I love, that I'm spending, my lifetime with at this point. Cause you said the first marriage was 30 years, right?
Sorry, 13 years.
13 years. Okay. Yeah. But still a while. And
Yeah.
then, I'm doing all this stuff that, did he even say, hey, you need to be a better wife. You need to, do all this stuff. Or he was just like, where it was just negative all the time,
I wouldn't say it was negative all the time. I think when you're in an abusive relationship like that, they are very clever. And
Mhm.
I don't think they do it on purpose. I mean, because I've been researching psychology for years to try and understand, because for me, it's all about forgiveness. It's not about forgetting. I can't carry hate. I've got to forgive, because that's just who I am. So I have to understand why this stuff happened. I don't think they did it on purpose. I don't think they, intentionally set out to be an aggressive person or an abusive
Yeah.
person in any way. I think it's learned behavior, and that's the
Yeah.
way they know how to get what they want by doing these things, which is not okay. I understand it, but it is not okay. And I think it made a massive impact on my future relationships. And it all started with me being a child and in abusive situations, which there is not enough research on at all. In terms of, you go through an abusive relationship as an adult and you might be diagnosed with anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder, depression. When you go through it as a child, you're kind of forgotten. It's like the forgotten, children, if that makes sense.
It does.
Because you go through life and you end up automatically choosing these situations again and again and again and not knowing why.
Is
And I
it like
went
a
through
comfort zone, you think? Because it's just,
100%.
yeah, it's like I feel comforted in that because I already know what dynamics I can live within,
Yeah,
and I know when to talk and when not to talk, and what's going to
100%.
happen. And
Yeah. When I entered into my second marriage, I knew it possibly wasn't 100% right, but it felt better. It felt more right, if that makes sense.
yes,
It totally wasn't. It was completely worse than the first one. But when I tried to get out of that relationship, I looked at it, and when you start looking at relationships and engaging in an intimate relationship with somebody else, or even a friendship relationship with somebody else, you start questioning everything that they do. You know, are they being nice to me because they want something? Or are they being nice to me because they're generally nice? And I just couldn't grasp that concept that someone is genuinely nice. And I sat there and thought, well, I'm a genuinely nice person. I mean, if you're horrible to me, I'll be horrible back. I'm not going to be, I'm not going to lie about that, but I'm genuinely
Human nature,
nice.
right?
I'm generally a
Human
nice
nature.
person.
Yeah.
But it's really difficult to grasp that concept that someone wants to be nice to you when you've never had that in life. Someone's always had an ulterior motive. So what I found myself in a position was, when you've got someone being nice and wanting to look after you and care for you and be the best that they can for you, you pull away from it, because your brain's screaming danger, because you're not used to it. It's a concept that you're not used to and you don't understand. Whereas you've got this other relationship or this other person here that is saying, well, I'll care for you a little bit, and then I probably won't, and I'll just discard you and treat you like all the rest have done. You kind of go, yeah, I'll opt for that, because I know what's going to happen. I know the buttons, I know the pressure points, I know what I can get away with, and I know what I can't get away with. And it is a cycle. And it came to a head for me about 3 years ago when I was having a conversation, and I was in a complete pity party mode. It was, woe me, why me? The world hates me. No one loves me. We've all had those days.
The victim mentality.
Yeah, I was being the victim.
Especially when, you have been through a lifetime of abuse and just trying to, deal with it and then figure out, well, how I don't want to feel like this. How can I feel better? And then what is that going to take? And then trying to juggle both, basically, okay, I'm still living in this situation, trying to resolve my issues, overcoming this. And then, using every minute you can when you feel happy, right?
Yeah,
to push through and find, well, who am I? Who do I want to be? Who do I want in my life? So yeah. I can understand that. Yeah.
I've been swinging on a pendulum. So I'll go from, 1 minute, super happy. Yeah, I'm amazing. I'm going to have global domination. Yeah. And the next minute I'm like, the world hates me. I'm not lovable. I've swung from both ends of the, both ends of the pendulum. But it was a conversation that I had about 4 years ago. One of my close friends who's been around was around for a very long time, they're not anymore, said, there's a common denominator here, Jen. I was like, okay, it's you. And I went, okay, well, this keeps happening to you. Clearly it's not everybody else. It's something about you. Oh my goodness. Again, at the time, I didn't realize victim blaming, let's go down that road. And I've researched a lot more about that, and I'm reading a lot more into it. But this is a common perception, is if something happens to somebody over and over again, it's clearly their fault. And what I've realized that it isn't. And if there is anybody out there that is going through this situation again and again and again, it is not your fault at all. It'll just be that you're in a pattern of choosing similar sorts of behavior because that is what you're used to. And even though it's scary and you're in danger, it's what you're comfortable with. It's where you feel safe.
I like how you put that too, that, you're even drawing in friendships that actually are abusive in some nature too. And you didn't, I see that now you're realizing, it's also, could be friends as well as family, as well as people close to you. Yeah, it is. It really is it's that pattern. I like how you put it. It is a pattern, and it's in everybody you meet. So if you're used to that pattern, you're going to seek out those people unknowingly. It's not like you just woke up and be like, I need to find this abusive person that's gonna, treat me terribly. So I'm glad that it sounds like you resolved that friendship and made peace
it's no
with
longer.
That. Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean in a nice way, right?
Yes, it's no longer. Way.
Yeah.
No, it's definitely no longer. And I want to say as well, I think a lot of people think that there's a magic wand, and they think when you've been through, you can just go to therapy, have 6 sessions and it will be over and you'll feel amazing. No, I'm really sorry to make everybody aware that is not the case. I've been going to therapy since I was 15. So we're going on 17 years now, on and off for various different things. Because we go to therapy because we have one challenge in our life that we think we need resolving. But when you look at it as a deeper aspect, it's that pattern that we are stuck in that we need to resolve. It's not it's not that it's like an iceberg. It's not the bit at the top. It's everything underneath that we need to reshuffle those patterns. We need to rearrange those building
The
blocks, if that makes
systems.
sense, to
Yeah,
put them
yeah.
back in place.
The foundation. The foundation needs to be rebuilt. Yeah.
It does.
So yeah, I can understand that. Yeah, especially because it wasn't repaired in the first place. Oh
No, it
yeah.
wasn't. It was built wonky in the first place. So if it's built uneven in the first place, it's always going to be uneven. So you've got to go back towards the bottom. And this has been a very unsettling and emotional experience for myself. With COVID as well at the moment, I am not ashamed to say that I have hit a wall. There was 2 weeks ago, I was literally in bed for 2 weeks just sobbing. Do you know when you get to that deep depression where you literally cannot get out of bed and you realise 4 days later you've not managed to get a wash? And I've said this to people and they've gone, oh, that's absolutely disgusting. Yeah, it's disgusting not to have a wash, but when you are in that depths of depression, you physically do not have the brain capacity or the energy to get up and look after yourself, never mind, have daily life.
And I got to jump in here, Jen, and say I do. I don't know if many people out there that are listening to our story live today can relate to that, but I do. I went through a lot over the last, I would say 3 years is when it really hit bottom, where I knew something major was wrong and I didn't know what it was. And just staying in bed and just trying to struggle with, what is going on with me? Why am I feeling like this? I don't want to feel like this. And then I'd have to credit my kids have been the best support of my absolute life. They brought me presents, they made food, they just
Oh,
tried
that's
to cheer
amazing.
me up. They've always been homeschooled, so they've always been around. And they knew I was going through a lot. So I had to credit all that to my kids giving me the strength to, be better
Yeah.
every single moment when I felt like that.
I think looking at my children, obviously, because I've been through these patterns all my life, and I've only recently realised that it's a pattern that I need to change. And I've realised that, obviously, due to the relationships I've had, my children have also been through these patterns, and I've gone, oh my gosh, my children have also developed these patterns. And it was only when my eldest boy, who's 15, has recently come out of an emotionally abusive relationship. And I'm thinking, oh, God, I'm such a terrible mother. I've passed these patterns on to my children. So we're now repairing that. So I know, we want you to talk about how what happened to me as a child has impacted me as an adult.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just impacted me as an adult, it's impacted my children as well, because they're making the same choices that I was choosing. And it took quite a lot with my eldest son because I'm not going to push him. I'm not going to say, get out of that relationship, it's abusive. We had to work with him to allow him to see for himself that this was not quite right, and how he was feeling, and how he deserves to be treated. And he is still struggling. I mean, this relationship broke up 3 months ago with him, but he is still struggling, with his mental health. He still misses the relationship and certain parts of it because he became dependent on this other person. And it's quite scary that young people are going through this at early teenage years. This is why I've got a massive passion for educating, from not early years, but from younger years now, that it isn't just physical abuse that is wrong. It's emotional abuse as well, and be wary of the signs. And it doesn't matter what somebody says to you or what somebody does. If you don't feel right and you don't feel good, it's not right. And sometimes it might not be on them, it might not be their fault, it's your perception and your beliefs. But if it's not making you feel good, it's not right, and that's okay.
And I
I
love
mean, for
that you
example,
put that in there too, because it is in a way I talk to a lot of people too, but it always seems like we have this voice in our head that's like, something's wrong, you need to pay attention, something's wrong here, something's wrong. And then we kind of just like, no, it's good. I have money, I have a house, my kids are doing well. And then we talk ourselves out of it. And but really we don't resolve what the problem is, and that's what's eating at us this whole time. Is just like, no, there is something wrong, I need to face this problem and overcome this, whatever difficulties I need to go through, because that is the foundation that's broke, that in that aspect. Um,
It
yes.
is. And I think that comes from what society tells us we should have and should be about success. So I'm working with a lot of people at the moment who very, very well for themselves, beautiful houses, perfect family, the car, the business, and they are miserable. Absolutely miserable, because all they've done is followed a pattern that is instilled in us from being young people, that you go to school, you go to college, go to university, you earn this money and you're successful. What a load of bananas.
And
It's so
over and
not.
over and over again, I think people are coming to this realization that we are given, this path that, okay, this is how we stay happy through our lifetime. And it's not so cookie cutter. There's a lot of
No.
gray, there's a lot of challenges, there's a lot of difficulties. Yeah. So yeah, and I know what you mean where especially success, when you mentioned successful people, that I still see, a lot of people think that they need to earn money to attain something, and it's not true at all. It's all finding what your passion is, and how you want to give back, and just learning that whatever you're happy doing in life, that's what you should be doing. It doesn't matter if you don't want to have kids. It doesn't matter if you don't want, if you want to go to college or not. It doesn't matter if you just are happy working, at a 9 to 5 job cooking hot dogs. It doesn't matter. This is your life. If you are
Yeah.
happy with that, do that. That is your passion,
There was a quote I read, and I've kind of, I won't say stole it, but I've used it within my content, and obviously referenced the original author. Success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure, and that hit me smack between the eyes. You can be as successful as you want, but if you are not happy, what is the point of being successful? And excuse me,
Good quote.
what I want to say is, as well, if that's okay, is just go back a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
because I did say, obviously, my experience is about trauma, both physical and mental. I don't think either the effects of mental challenges are talked about enough in terms of how that comes out in a physical aspect.
Okay. Yeah, go
And it
ahead.
was around 10 years ago when my last little boy was born. I became very fatigued. I'm literally like sleeping 20 hours a day. This was when I was pregnant. 20 hours a day I was sleeping. I literally woke up, took the children to school, came home, slept, woke up, made them dinner, put them to bed and slept. I didn't have a life. I was completely fatigued. And I went through about 18 months of testing. They went through Addison's disease. They went through absolutely every test they possibly could. And they came to a conclusion that I had leukemia.
Oh, wow.
And they came to the conclusion that I had leukemia because my white blood cells were dangerously low. Literally, if they went any lower, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
And I sat and looked at them at this appointment in utter disbelief, and I said, I've not got leukemia. Because by this point, when they came to this, it was a couple of years later. So if it was leukemia, I wouldn't be here already. I don't think it's leukemia. And I employed a private nutritionalist, and who was also well versed in mental health. And it actually came down to the fact that it was diet related and stress related. Because my body, from being 2 years old, has always lived at a constant high stress level. So you've got the fight or flight response that we have. And as
Mm-hmm.
human beings, we're only meant to be in that fight or flight response, every now and again in life and death, situations. But due to the way I was brought up and the situations that I was in, I was living on that level. So my complete adrenal system and nervous system is shot at. It's gone. It's broken. And I got diagnosed with something called ME. Now, don't ask me to pronounce it because I can't, which
Yeah.
is basically chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia. It was presenting in lots of physical symptoms, so massive amounts of pain, aches, headaches, sickness, complete fatigue. It was just absolutely horrendous. I lost a heck of a lot of weight. I'm generally a size, well, in UK sizes are 14. I think in American sizes that's a size 10.
Okay.
So I'm generally a size 10,
Yeah.
since size 12 anyway. And I went down to a UK size 4, which is a American, what American size is that? That'd be American
I
size
don't
0,
know.
won't it? So I
Oh, is
was, I
it?
was, I was
Wow.
tiny,
Yeah.
tiny. That isn't my natural state. So I knew there was something wrong. Hence why obviously got in touch with a nutritionalist, changed my diet, obviously went through more mental health professionals. None of this is a quick fix. we took a long time to build these foundations, and the foundations are built uneven. We've got to start unpicking everything from the top layer and go back down to the bottom. Can you do this on your own? Possibly, yeah. But I think we're always stuck inside our own box. That's the challenge. I meet many people that say, I don't want therapy, I don't need it. You're stuck inside your own box. You have one point of view because it's yours. You've got one perception. It's always best to have somebody else's perception looking in to give you a different perspective on what is going on around you. So you can go, oh, I didn't realize that, and start piecing those building blocks back together.
Yes.
But I think it starts with asking yourself questions. And this is something I've gone through a lot over the last few years. I see what I do now in business. I get people going, oh God, you're so inspiring, you're amazing, you're so full of energy. And I'm sat in the corner with my tissues crying, and my eyes are leaking. I'm going, how is this inspiring? This is not inspiring. I'm not an inspiring person. Please don't look up to me. I'm not a role model. I'm an absolute sopping mess.
You are a role model, though. You are, because you have a story. You have a story that drives you, that, you feel empathy for people because, you've been there. And that's powerful. Not many people can, teach from that level. A lot of people that went to school to teach, say therapy or mental health, a lot of those people probably, I can't say everybody, but I said a lot of them, can't relate on the same level because they didn't live through it. And it's a total different world when you've lived through it, and because you can relate as that same person that's going through it that you're helping, and so you have the empathy to be there and be like, you can get through it because I got through it. So that's powerful.
Yeah, they can. And in my life, I didn't believe what they were telling me. I didn't believe that I could help other people. Even though people were telling me, I didn't believe it. You've got to start believing it yourself. And how did I start doing that? For anybody out there that wants to know, how do I start believing in myself? How do I start changing what I'm thinking? Start asking yourself the right questions. It all starts with the right questions. So, for example, if someone, says to me, you're an inspiration, I'll sit down and I'll go, am I an inspiration? And the automatic thought is, God, no. Who would want to be inspired by me? But what we do is we very quickly jump on the negative aspects of our personality and who we are. And we've all got loads of negatives. We're human. That's okay. We are human. But start basically repositioning that as, how can that be a positive? So I wrote down a list of what are the positive aspects of myself, what are the negative ones of myself. How can I reframe that negative one into a positive one? Well, obviously ask myself the questions as well. Do I think I'm an inspiration? Well, I've got other people telling me that I've changed their life, so maybe. But it's asking yourself that question over and over again. And I'm not saying this to be big-headed or, to have an ego. I don't come from that sense at all. But if other people are saying this on a consistent basis and I'm helping other people, then maybe. And you've got to work on it slowly. And I think a lot of people that I've been working with recently, they'll say, well, I'm a bad person. Okay, why are you a bad person? Why do you think you're a bad person? Because I've attracted all this negativity and it keeps happening to me, so clearly it's me. Ask yourself that question on a piece of paper. Are you a bad person? If you can honestly answer that yes, then I'm going to eat my own socks, because I don't think anybody's going to seriously say, yes, I'm a bad person. Start writing down the good things about you and yourself, about what your achievements are. And I think, again, people go to what society tells you success is and what is an achievement. An achievement is you got up this morning and made your bed. An achievement is you got up today and you didn't, kill anybody because they're not driving you mad.
Unless you did, and then you're a bad person.
Then you're a bad person.
Then you're a bad person. Period.
Yeah, but it's just, look at the little things that you've done throughout the day that makes you a good person. I was saying that about my I have to laugh at this, but I have to tell this story.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just for anybody who's out there with children and thinking they've passed on patterns. And I was absolutely mortified. Obviously my kids, dad and me, are separated now. We have been for a long time, and they've got another mum as well. Obviously, stepmum is married to dad, and they came home and said, "Oh, it was Mother's Day, and we made her breakfast in bed, and we got all these presents, and we did all these flowers." I'm like, "Oh, that's amazing," because we get on great. You know, she is. She
Good.
may not have birthed them, but she is mum. She treats them as her own.
That's great.
And I said, "That's absolutely fantastic, but I'm a little bit jealous." And he went, "Why?" I was like, "I didn't get breakfast in bed. I didn't get flowers." I said, "I got a card and I got a bag of sweets, and that was it." And he went, "Yeah, but that's your own fault, Mum." And I went, "Why?" "But would you remember when you and Dad were splitting up?" I was like, "Okay, where's this going?" "Well, you were in the bath one day crying, and we brought you some toast to cheer you up, and then you threw it on the floor because we hadn't buttered it right." And I went, "Oh my God." And I was like, "I don't remember doing
I
that.
did this.
I'm so sorry." But that just shows the impact of how
Yeah.
something small that we can do. I mean,
And they
okay, I
remembered.
didn't,
They remembered.
because that was emotional for them, because they were trying to do something really good for me to cheer me up, and I disrespected that.
Yeah.
And I think that the sooner we realise that the things that we do and say to our children, it has a massive impact on them, the better. I mean, we've had conversations, they're not actually traumatised by this, you know, the teenagers now, we laugh about it, but they still won't bring me breakfast in bed. Do you know what they want?
It's something you're just going to have to accept.
Yes, I get treats in other ways now. So if I'm feeling bad, they will buy me a chocolate bar and kind of slide it through my door.
Aw, well, that's cute. That's cute.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it's the big thing is, you know, whatever trauma we have, whatever adversity we have, it does leave an impact on us. And when we start reacting to that, it can have an effect on other people around us, but that's forgotten. You know, that's forgotten, the impact it has on people around us, because we focus on the person that's been impacted, like with domestic abuse. Everyone focused on my mum and the effects it was having on her. Didn't look at anybody else, and you know, me, my family and friends, and how that impacts them. Same with my children. When we went through, obviously, when the police were involved, and obviously we got other services involved to help me support with mental health services, no one concentrated on my children. They were all concentrating on me. And that for me now is, I was already in that pattern. It wasn't me that needed the help, because I wasn't ready for the help, but my children were open to that help right there and then. When they were receptive, it was them that should have got that support, so they didn't fall into them patterns.
Here in the States, they do the same thing. They don't really look at the children as, I mean, they kind of do. They're like, well, do we need to take them out of this environment and give them a different environment, which isn't, I mean, that's going to just make things worse in my view. Personally, I think it's just going to make it worse, because, you know, they are growing up in this environment, and, you know, they need to build a healthy relationship, not just be like ripped away from it. And, you know, but yeah, there is no real, they don't really listen to kids in court systems, and, you know, what they had to deal with, you know, with abuse mentally or physically. Like they said, the only option that I know of, I don't know if you guys want to chime in here that are on the live, but you know, from, you know, things that I know dealing with courts here in the United States, you know, they're just like, well, you know, it's 50-50. Everything's 50-50. They don't have a say, you know, they don't have, if something physical or mental, you know, they had to deal with, or they had to overcome. There is no services for kids to deal with that and voice their opinion on any of it. It's just like, okay, what did the parents go through? How are they doing? Are they stable? If they're not stable, we're just going to take away the kids. You know,
Which is so wrong, because then that's just teaching the children that, you know, when somebody's struggling in, you know, with the mental health, leave. And it's like, what? No, don't do this.
Run away. Don't deal with it. You know, not your issue. So
pretty much. Yeah. And I think, do you know what? It's for anybody out there that is struggling. It takes time. It takes a long time. So I went through these situations when I was from 2 to, you know, 7, 8, 9, and then I went into the same situations as an adult. 37. I turned 37 2 weeks ago, and I sat here going, oh my God, I'm nearly 40. What am I doing with my life? It takes time. But you've got to want to change. I think that's the biggest thing. If you keep telling yourself, oh, this is how I've always been, this is how it's always going to be, That's how it's always going to be. There's only you that can change this. You've got to want to change it, and it's hard. I mean, some days I wake up and I don't want to deal with the world, and I have what I call my pity party days, and I'm allowed to lie in bed, and I'm allowed to cry, and I'm allowed to say everybody hates me and nobody loves me and the world's a horrible place. I'm allowed to have that. I'm not allowed to stay in that state though. I'm allowed one day, and then I've got to pick myself back up and go, right, get yourself sorted. What is great about today? I've got my beautiful children. They're all amazing. You know, one's an A-star student. She's going to college this year. What is amazing about the world? And concentrate on the positives. Now, I know a lot of people talk about affirmations, you know, and The Secret, and I'm not too much into all that. I'm just learning it because for me, it was always a bit woo-woo. I was always
Yeah.
science-based, you know. I was like
Well,
science and math-based. It's, you
if
know,
you look at the
physical.
science aspect of it, I myself, having people on here and they talk about, you know, any mental things as well, where it could go really spiritual or it could go like very science-based. And there is science behind it.
There is.
So it's not all like, you know, crazy talk or whatever we would like to pin it
No.
as, right? There is science behind it. But myself, I don't think is I mean, it can be easy, but you gotta realize the dynamics of it. Just like making a cake or making anything, making a business. Yes, you can manifest anything in your life, period, because you are your vessel. Your vessel can decide who you want in life, where your direction is going to be, you know, what choices you make. However, it's not magic. You have
No.
to actually make the choices. It's not just going to show up. If I want $1,000,000, it's not going to show up here until I make the steps and gain the knowledge and really have a need for the money, right? Because the money is
Yeah.
just a resource. If
Yeah.
I don't have a need for the money, then it's not going to come to me because I don't have a way to spend it. I don't have things I need it for. You know, if I feel comfortable, like where I'm at right now, this is my life. I can't manifest it. And I think that's where a little people get they see it like a magic sign in a way, like a get rich quick or like a casino, you know, where it's like I put in this, I do my affirmations, I do my manifestation, and it's gonna come to me. And it doesn't work like that.
I
And
wish it did.
we all do, right? Because the thing is, if it was that easy and it took like not the brain power behind it, not the willpower to learn and grow and give back and be grateful, you know, then everybody will have abundant whatever they want. And you know, it just doesn't work that way because everybody wants more money. Everybody wants to have peace. Everybody wants to, you know, help out organizations and things like that. But if you don't have the knowledge right now, you can't get to that next step because you're not ready as a person. You haven't grown to that level. And yeah, I just wanted to throw that in there because I do hear a lot of that too. And I just wanted to I do a lot of mindset talks and motivational speaks. Definitely, if you guys follow me on YouTube, you can see I do a lot of success classes and things like that. So all my stuff all focuses on mental health. If you guys haven't noticed that yet, but I am very big on mental health, and it's an area that I'm very passionate about. So
It's all about, it is all about your mindset, 1,000,000%. Absolute 1,000,000%. It's all about your mindset. I was going to say something then as well. It's just escaped me of what I was going to say. Do you know when your brain just goes, it
yeah,
all falls out like
you
a
know what?
colander?
And this is really cool about this. So this is how you know, like the energies around you. You know that manifestation, right? You could call it, because when you put that want out there, like you say, I want
That's what I
to
was going to
know
say.
this. I want to know this, and it comes back to you. But you
Yeah.
have to have that need to want it. And this is with anything. I'm not just talking about like I lost my keys, but it's that want, and you can't get your mind off of it. That's how strong you need to have your mind, you know, want the money, want the relationship, want anything. And it's that same need. You have to want it so bad. That's all you think about. Like when I lose my keys, believe me, I want it so bad. I am struggling to figure out where I put them,
Yeah.
what I do. And it's that same like push that you need to either give yourself or even have somebody thrown it at you, right? Like you've been, you know, in an abusive relationship, you know, it's either where life puts you there or because your decisions, um, or you know, you take that step and you're just like, you know, this is enough. I want to, you know, move on, and I need this great. And yeah,
It is all about putting it out there. As I said, I was never, I call it woo woo, and I'm not being disrespectful. It's just a
yeah.
term we use in the UK. It's a bit woo woo. And that's anything. I mean, I've got crystals in my room at the moment. I've set my crystals up for, you know, I'm very woo woo these days. I never used to be. And I had a conversation with somebody once in terms of, I knew I wanted to do something, but basically I wanted to purchase a business, and I knew I didn't have the finances, I didn't have the experience, I didn't have the knowledge, I didn't feel credible enough to get this. And I was speaking to somebody and they said, what do you mean you can't do it? I was like, I can't do it. Who says? I was like, well, all these things in place. And I think the biggest thing with affirmations is, and you know, going for your goals is one, what are your goals? Define what your goals are, and I think that's really important, because most people say, what, £1 million? That's not a goal.
Yeah.
That isn't a goal. It's just
No.
a vehicle to get what you want. So what do you want with that £1 million? Do you want to go and build a school in Africa? Do you want to go to the casinos and just blow it all and have fun? What is your goal?
Yeah, it doesn't have to be like something to give back, like you said.
No.
I mean, if you really just want it just to, like you said, to go party, then you
Yeah.
know, you at least you have a want, you have a
Yeah.
need for it, you know.
Yeah, it's discover what your goal is. You don't have to have the steps in between or know how to get there. It's just know what you want and start telling people. And when somebody said this to me, I went, pardon? So you're telling me to identify what I want and then start telling people that I'm going to get it? And they went, yeah. I went, oh, I can't do that because I'm going to look like an idiot if I don't get it. They're like, no, identify what you want. If you want this business, start having conversations with people and say, this is my dream. This is what I want. And just watch what happens. And I was going, can't do that. But then I did. I started engaging in conversations and went, this is what I'm going to do. And people went, oh, really? And I went, yes, really. This is what I'm going to have. Not right now, but I'm going to own this business and I'm going to do this. Okay. And I got some funny looks. I had more conversations. This is what I want. This is what I'm going for. Don't have the money, don't have the knowledge, don't have the credibility, don't have the skill level, but this is what I'm going for. Within 2 weeks.
Wow.
Not a long period of time. Within 2 weeks, I had 2 investors offering me the money. I had the person who owned the business offering to sell it to me. I'm going,
wow.
And then I had a mentor that was willing to mentor me within this. I'm going, wow. And here's me putting these blocks in place and I can't do this because of X, Y, and Z. Because I focused on what I wanted and started sharing with people, the opportunity presented itself to me.
Wow.
So, I mean, that's how powerful it is, just sharing what you want with people. And if they know you want it bad enough and they can provide that, other people are out there to help. Not everybody's a bad person. You might think they are, but they're not. So if you want to have an amazing relationship, you've got to start believing that you can have it and start acting like you're in that relationship. So when you're, you know, just for relationship purposes where I was, and, you know, I'm not in a relationship at the moment. I really don't want one. I'm quite happy working on myself. But when I put myself out there, when I present myself now, I am strong. I am confident. I won't deal with this. I won't deal with that. I know exactly what I want and exactly what I don't want. Anybody else who comes into my space now knows exactly where they stand. Those narcissists do not get past the first hurdle anymore. Whereas before, because I was like, I've been abused and I've had this in the past, they were like, that's really bad and I wouldn't do that to you. And then they did the same thing. I was giving them the opportunity to do it. Whereas now I'm like, I'm a strong, independent woman and you're not getting through my door. They don't even try. So you have to put yourself in that position in terms of, you know, what would my best self do today? What would my best self give me as advice today? And put yourself in that space. What would your best self do? You know, what sort of best friend would your best self have? And you look at your friendships and go, well, I wouldn't have them as a friend and I wouldn't have them as a friend. I'm not saying go and get rid of all your friends, but just start changing those. No, you don't have to, but just start, you know, if you want to, start changing those boundaries a little bit to make yourself happier.
Yeah, definitely.
We're going to have a revolution now of everyone going getting rid of the husbands of the best friends. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Well, you can't change people. So, I mean, if it's a bad relationship, it's going to continually be a bad relationship. If you haven't set the boundaries, make sure you set the boundaries. And if they can't live within those boundaries, they will go. They'll go away. Don't worry about it. They'll leave when the
Yeah,
time
they
is
will.
right.
They will.
And
Yeah,
you'll
they
be
will.
much better. You'll be much better. Let me see.
Sorry, we've
So we
waffled
got,
on for over an hour here, haven't we?
yeah,
Just
I
chatting
know.
about everything.
We probably got about like 10 more minutes. So wow, you went through definitely a lot, and then you overcame a lot, and you did. So is this business that you mentioned you're doing now? Is that what you created?
No, it's still in progress. It's a long-term sort of progression in terms of that. We've got quite a few months of legalities to go through and
Okay.
all sorts of stuff. So that's kind of in progression.
Mhm.
The business that I've got was an accident. I've had multiple businesses since being 18 years old with my ex-husbands, and they've always disappeared with the ex-husbands.
Yeah, I
Um,
understand.
Fantastic, learning curve there is don't go into business with your husband. No, don't go into business with those ex-husbands. I moved areas about 6 years ago, and because I'd lost everything, my self-worth had gone, my confidence had gone, I'd basically lost everything. But I had a little business, a lifestyle business, and I used to create silver memorial jewelry, so solid silver with handprints,
Oh wow.
fingerprints, with your actual fingerprints in.
Yeah, personalized.
And I used to visit Chapel of Rest when people had passed away and take handprints of babies and children, so the parents had
Oh,
something to remember them by.
it's really
I know
special.
lots of people do this, but they didn't concentrate on that arena because I think it's quite mentally draining, obviously dealing with babies and children that had passed. And I moved areas and joined. I knew I needed to get my business out there again. I joined a little group of 6 ladies. We used to go for coffee and cake. And that is so not me now, but at the time that's what I needed. And what I realized with all my years of business experiences, these people had something they're very good at, but they didn't understand about cash flow analysis, about your routes to market, about branding, about marketing. They didn't know anything else. They were brilliant at what they did. They just didn't understand anything else. So I started delivering training courses and one-to-one mentoring of these ladies without even realizing, just doing it just because, well,
You'd like
I'm
to.
there to help. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I very quickly realised that had become my full-time job. And I
Yeah.
didn't have time for my jewellery business. I had to make a decision. What do I do? Do I actively want to do this and help other people, or do I carry on with the jewellery? The jewellery business, as much as I loved it, was mentally draining because I was physically dealing with people that passed and all the emotions every single day, and it was draining. So I decided to sell that to a lovely lady that's still managing it now, and basically go more into the coaching sphere, the coaching area.
Yeah. Mhm.
And that is a very difficult area to navigate because everybody's a coach. Everyone can turn you from broke to a millionaire in a day. That's so not who I am.
Yeah.
I work with people with global thought leaders and business directors that have had past traumas, because generally business is a process. Business is A to B, B to C, C to D. It's that simple. I'm
Yeah.
not saying it's easy, but business is simple.
It's very
You need to,
structured. Business is
it
very
is.
structured. Yeah.
It
And
is.
I've been an entrepreneur since age 19, so I know.
We understand the same. Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
The only thing that complicates business is us and what's up here. So if we've got a limiting belief, we won't make a decision because of a limiting belief we've got. So it all starts with us. And do you know what? There's lots of business support out there, but there's not any specific support for business owners and directors that have suffered past trauma, because it's not generally talked about in the business world. That's a
True.
mental health professional's job. So I was speaking to another business coach last week, and he didn't understand the concepts of how you get a business owner through anxiety, or through an anxiety attack or a panic attack, to physically make decisions in business. So my head's exploding, going, well, how can you be a business coach if you don't understand how the mind works? Because that's the main part of it.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of people that don't understand this. They just teach you the process. But if you've got a challenge or a barrier within that process that you can't overcome, without going back into your mindset and your belief systems, you're never going to be able to overcome that. So that's the sphere that I kind of work on, is go, do you know what? Yeah, you're a business owner and you're really successful. You've done really great, but you can't get to that next level without overcoming that barrier. Let's work on that. Where's that come from? So that's kind of the sphere that I work in, because to me, anybody can be successful in business. That's, to me, I say it's simple. Business is a process. Getting yourself out of that mindset and into the next phase to being whatever you want to be. And you could want to be a pink elephant, you know, with a blue unicorn on riding on your back. That's fine. Whatever you want to be, that's absolutely fine. You can do it. You just got to find the steps to do it.
Yeah, no, I love that. So do you have a way that people contact you right now, or is it something that you're still building, or can they just
No, I've got
connect with
that.
you?
So I've been doing that for around about 5 years. So my website
Okay.
is, to make it easy for people, it's just my name, which is Jenny Hardman. So Jenny with a Y, and Hardman.co.uk. And they can contact me via LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. If anybody
All
wants to
under your
contact
name, right? So Jenny Hardman.
Jenny
And
Hardman.
what was the UK address? It's what?
.co.uk.
.co. Okay, co.uk. Okay.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. I got
Happy to have a conversation with anybody. If my story is, you know, touched them in any way, even if it's just to say, Jen, I'm struggling with this, what do I do with this? I'm more than happy to have a conversation with anyone that's out there that's struggling. Yeah, that's
I
how
love
to
that.
contact me.
I love that. So is there anything else that you'd like to tell our guests here on the live, and also that's going to be listening to the podcast at One Up Podcast, or even seeing the video later?
Yeah, I think one thing, I mean, I've got a quote that really resonates with me, and it is a Batman quote. For anybody who's into
Oh
Batman
my
will absolutely love
God.
this. I know,
I
sorry.
have a Batman hold on. I got to show you this. Hold on. Let me see. Okay. I am a big Batman fan.
Wowzers.
So, yeah.
That is amazing. We've got a few Marvel rooms in the house. We're mad on Marvel and DC.
Love Batman.
I've got boys, so. But yeah, the biggest thing, it's kind of a slight variation on a Batman quote, is it doesn't matter what happens to us. It's how we choose to react that matters. That is the one thing that resonated with me a lot when I was, you know, going through all this. It didn't matter what had happened to me. Yes, it was traumatic. Yes, it was horrible, but it's how I react that had made the difference. Because I could have become very bitter, very twisted, very angry individual, and I could have hated, you know, everybody in my life who's done these horrible things to me. But in reality, the only person that would continue to hurt is me, because they don't care. It doesn't affect them. They don't care how I feel. It doesn't affect them on a daily basis. So I chose forgiveness. I don't, you know, I don't let them off for what people have done. I don't forget it. But forgiveness was for me, so I could move on and find peace. I know that sounds again a bit woo-woo, but you know, that worked for me. And I think if anybody can hold on to anything, is if you have got the ability to forgive somebody when you're ready, forgive them, because it's not about them, it's about you.
Yeah, that's powerful. Yeah, it is. It is. And I meant to mention this a little bit earlier, and I'm going to throw it here in at the end, when you were mentioning age. And I even know, like, people I've talked to that came to me, and you know, that I touched in their lives, and they listen, where they're just like, you know, I'm 60, I'm 70, I'm struggling in my marriage, and we've been married like 40 years, and I'm going on to like 70 something, and I'm miserable. It's not an age thing. If you're miserable and not happy, you still need to, you know, find that inner strength, and you know, find where your peace is going to lie, and you know, take the moves, and
Yeah.
you know,
Age
be
doesn't
strong.
matter.
Be strong. Yeah, definitely.
Just quickly, one of my clients came to me about 2 years ago. She was 79 and setting up her first business.
Oh, that's
You can
lovely.
do whatever you want.
Lovely.
But anybody who is older, that's struggling in a relationship, that's been in it for 50 years, you need to go and find a lady on TikTok. I don't know if anybody's into TikTok. She's an older lady. I think she's 81. And
Yeah.
she started doing TikToks about her divorce and how empowered she is after
Oh,
all these years of being
interesting.
married.
Do you remember her
And
name?
it's absolutely fantastic. I don't, but I can forward it to you later. And even if you
Okay,
want
I'll
to
put
put it
it,
on the
guys.
links.
I'll put it on the description on the video, as well as the podcast, so you can see it in the description. So you can go check out
Yeah.
her TikTok, and
You
of
do
course I'll put
anything.
Jenny Hartman's information as well, so you can contact with her and connect and talk about your business and what things are holding you back. And she said, even if you just want to reach out to her, that you can relate to her and her story and want to say how it's helped you, definitely give her some feedback and leave her a kind message and say,
Definitely
she's
kind ones.
amazing, and I already love her to death. So thank you so much, Jenny. It's
Thank
been
you.
my pleasure having you on here. And thank you guys for watching the live. If you're watching the live, if you're watching the replay off the live on the I'm losing my train of thought here. The YouTube channel. You can also see more of these message of hope videos from Struggle to Success on the YouTube by going to amina.media. That's my name, AMENA.media, MEDIA. And if you're listening to the One Up podcast, broadcasting, thank you so much for being an engaging listener. Really appreciate any feedback, comments, anything for Jenny, you can leave there too, and I'll make sure she gets it. Again, thank you guys. You're the ones that make this possible as well. And if this message of hope resonated with you, please share it. The whole point of this is getting more positivity in the world and showing people, it is a struggle, but you can find your success. Okay. Thank you guys. Take care. And thank you,
Thank
Jenny. I'll
you.
talk to
Thank
you
you very
soon.
much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.